know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio. World.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio World. I like that promo. It wasn't me who did it, but I do like that promo. So we are in the midst of our weekly broadcast of the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. We just finished a conversation on predatory home buying. Again, John Wilson, King County Tax Assessor, Linda Taylor from the Urban League. George Petrie, I almost said Jeff. So if anybody is an old school basketball fan, you'll know where that Jeff Petrie and Portland Trailblazers came from. And then also, George Petrie is from Goodman Real Estate, and then also Nicole Bascom Green from Bascom Real Estate Group. It was a great conversation. We got to a lot of stuff. We had some frank, honest conversation, and tried to give you some answers. So if you are a person who is owning a home in the Central District or Southeast Seattle, and you have owned it for a long time and you feel like you're getting pressured to sell, there are some opportunities for you to get some education about what you may need to do and some assistance as well. And in particular, again, if you are someone who during the isolation or doesn't have family members you can contact, you should probably look at getting some help and some assistance. Do we have our guest on? So we're waiting for our guest to join us. I'll tell you a little bit what we're going to be talking about, and that's the Northwest Grocers call on the public to wear masks. This has been controversial, politicized, for reasons that we'll discuss at some other time. But the Northwest Grocery Association, which represents many of the most familiar brands, including Fred Meyer, Safeway, and Albertsons, released a series of social media ads urging the public to join in their "We Can't Do This Alone" campaign. Now, because we have open, honest, and frank conversation, how come none of those ad buys went to Rainier Avenue Radio? But we're still the ones who are using our airwaves to have an important conversation. I just had to say that because it needed to be said. Anyway, we're here to have this conversation. And again, the campaign is called "We Can't Do This Alone." Northwest Grocers, my guest joining me is Holly Chisa. Holly, am I saying your last name correctly?
You are. Thank you.
Holly Chisa, who's been active in both state and federal government issues for over a decade. Currently, Holly is the owner of her own lobbying firm, HPC Advocacy, LLC, and works to provide her clients with the best representation possible in the Washington state legislature. Holly's involvement in politics began in 1994, working as a campaign consultant. Worked in the House and Senate as staff for lawmakers, including the Senate Majority Caucus Chair, Valoria Loveland. She's also worked in the United States Congress, working for U.S. Congressman Adam Smith. So I really wasn't joking. I was like, okay, there's media going out, but Rainier Avenue Radio, which impacts a great portion of those stores in our community that you work for. But still, it's important to us we get this information out, so I'm going to let that go.
Well, we haven't done any ad buys.
Okay.
Right now, it is all through social media and whatever media we're able to pick up through the kindness of folks who take interest in the press release, including you. So no buys as of yet, but I'll definitely, if we do start purchasing media, I'll keep you in mind. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Holly. Again, if you were listening before or not, we have open, honest, frank conversation. That's just how we get down. And that was a good answer. I can appreciate that. Holly, I don't know where to start with this issue of the masks.
Sure.
Your call on the public to wear masks, "We Can't Do This Alone" campaign. What spurred this particular campaign into action?
Well, so you know who I am. We represent the larger retail grocery stores, but we're partnered with all of the grocery stores from the largest to your smallest community neighborhood store in trying to respond to the governor's proclamation asking everyone to wear a mask when they're in public spaces and especially indoors in grocery stores or in office buildings. And we are asking for that help from the community to respond to that order. We want to honor what the governor has asked of all of us as Washington residents to take on. And that includes wearing a facial covering when you're in the stores. And we are asking for that help both as the stores, but also on behalf of our employees who are on the front lines every day, serving our communities and needing that additional step of protection to keep them healthy as well.
Now, I'm guessing that the people who are wearing masks already don't have a problem wearing masks in the stores. The people who aren't wearing masks, I don't know that they're going to change because of this campaign. And so when you say we can't do this alone, and again, we've talked about the governor, can you point to, again, you talked about essential workers and frontline workers. We can't do this alone. Why, for our essential workers in the grocery industry, why is this message taking place? Why is there a campaign about this?
Well, it's a little bit of, you're right in that a large number of our folks are already choosing to wear facial coverings in the store before the governor's proclamation. And then before the governor's proclamation, where he highly recommended facial coverings, as you'll recall, about a week and a half ago, before the mandate this last Tuesday. And for that population that struggles to remember, for those folks who just aren't used to this yet, we are already seeing a significant uptick in those folks who are, oh, shoot, I forgot, turning back, going to get their mask out of the car and coming back into the store, or who are being thoughtful about, putting a scarf or something else. There is always going to be a population of folks that choose not to. And so we're having to work through that, through this kind of messaging campaign that if you choose not to, not only are you putting our employees in a very difficult situation, but also for the stores, we can get a $10,000 fine if it is not handled correctly. So we're looking at it both for the employee point of view of protection for them, and then also for us, and that we could have our business license revoked if it gets severe enough.
Wow. You may not have this information, but again, we've mentioned essential work. People need food, and grocery stores have to be open. We've noticed that there are now the plastic shields up.
Yep.
Do you have information about the positive testing rate of employees and those frontline workers, again, who put themselves on the line and maybe we don't know. Maybe it's not personalized. Maybe that might help. Do you have any information about how this is impacting, how COVID-19 and the infection rate is of this contagion is impacting those essential workers?
I don't. We try to be respectful, at least from an association standpoint, on rights of medical privacy and HIPAA and the like. So I have not asked for that information for our stores out of respect for our frontline workers and their medical privacy. There may be at the state health department or even the labor union may have that data, but that's not data that I have.
You said that you've noticed an uptick. As I've mentioned before, there are just some people who, for the reasons that they choose not to wear a mask.
Yep.
If someone refuses to wear a mask, are there things that they can tell the store that would be acceptable reasons for them to be able to come into the store and shop without a mask? I'm assuming if you're 1 year old, you're probably not going to the store by yourself.
Yeah.
So, but are there reasons? Because there are now beginning to, and I'm just saying, before it was, it's my freedom, it's my right, it's my first.
Mhm.
Now people are saying, hey, I have a condition. Um, anyway, and maybe they do. 'Cause I don't know. Are there reasons why a person can show up at a grocery store without a mask and say, I don't have a mask. Here's my doctor's note.
They are very limited. And this is one of the challenges for our frontline staff and for our stores that we're trying to figure out is, we can't under HIPAA and under the Americans with Disabilities Act ask what someone's medical condition is, and what circumstance they may have, because that is covered under rights of privacy. By the same token, we don't want people coming in the store just saying, well, I can't wear a mask because I have a disability, and then have to kind of trust that as a rationale when you're right. There are people who just don't want to wear a mask. And it does put us in a very difficult position. It's why we're encouraging those who can, even if you don't really want to, please do it anyway to support our staff who are being asked by the governor to enforce this proclamation, to help the owners of the stores know who they are within the store that don't want to wear them. So at least we can narrow it down and have a better understanding of who's moving around in that store that doesn't have one on. If we can simply narrow this down to that very small population who do have a medical reason why they cannot, then we can offer alternatives like curbside and other choices if we have the staff to do it, to accommodate for that. But the simple, I don't want to do it, is not an allowable excuse under the governor's proclamation.
And thank you, Holly. And we kind of jumped right into this conversation without getting into the details about the Northwest Grocery Association. So tell us a little bit about the Northwest Grocery Association.
Sure. So we are actually a multi-state association. I am based here in Washington State, but we've also represent grocery stores in Oregon and Idaho. And we represent both large and small. In Washington State, I represent the larger grocery stores. You have Safeways, Albertsons, Costco, Fred Meyer, and QFC. And then in the other states, in Oregon and in Idaho, we represent all the grocery stores from the largest to the smallest. So we are able to kind of coordinate among the states for mask policies among the different states and work with these companies to try and navigate basically what's new uncharted waters for a lot of these companies, never having to deal with this kind of thing before.
And is there any kind of requirement from the large or small stores that the store provide PPE, personal protection equipment, for folks who don't have it, don't have a mask? And is there anything like that in place where folks can anticipate that, hey, if I don't have a mask for whatever reason, is there anything that says that the stores have to have a mask in place? Somebody comes in and says, I don't have a mask. If you can't give me one, you should let me in. Is it required that stores carry PPE?
So we're required to offer for sale PPE for customers. A lot of our stores are trying to have those kind of paper disposable masks available for customers who do forget. But those are hard to come by, as you can imagine right now, for all of us, whether you're a corner convenience store or a big corporate grocery chain. We're all having a hard time finding those. But it would be the simplest solution is if we had them, to have them at the door and offer them to folks who forget it in their car or who don't have one. So we aren't required at the moment. We are required to have them for sale, but we would prefer to be able to have those disposable masks available. And we're hoping that will come here as we work with the various suppliers to get those and get them all over the city and all over the state.
Thank you. And I'm going to go back to this again. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Northwest Grocery Association. So for someone whose immune system is compromised and they see someone in the store without a mask, again, this is just is what it is, and this has become politicized, and it's become something, should they just assume that that individual has some sort of medical condition or disability that prevents them from wearing a mask, and the store has said, okay, we understand, because otherwise we can't let you in?
I think for right now, as we learn how to do this well, and we are all trying to be a little bit more respectful of one another in an environment that has kind of taken a turn of lacking respect in some ways as we all move around in the public a little bit, that the best move that folks can make is to understand there may be a circumstance as to why that other individual doesn't have a facial covering, and make sure that we are carrying our own, that our families are carrying their own, that our friends are carrying their own, and work our own networks to make sure we're all doing what we're supposed to do. If that shrinks the number of individuals walking around a grocery store to just a scant few, that will be a significant move in helping to deter the spread. It is not always the best idea for someone to take it upon themselves to confront somebody else in a grocery store. That makes for a potentially unstable situation for customers and for the employees that are going to have to get in the middle of that. And so we're asking folks to just kind of focus on their own house and their own family and friends, and making sure we're all doing what we're supposed to do. And that at least narrows the number down to a manageable couple that we can then handle at the store site.
Okay. So if you're in the store and you see someone not wearing a mask, you would prefer at that point that you just keep it to yourself. Should you report it to someone, or just go on about your business?
Well, you're welcome to report it if you choose to. That individual may have been reported by a couple of folks to different management and staff. I mean, we're limited on what we're able to do. We're not going to physically grab the guy and throw him out. We don't have those kind of policies in place. And there are counties in the state where law enforcement has said that they won't enforce the policy. And so we're in a little bit of a pinch in understanding better as we work through this over the next week or so. As you know, this is still new to us as of Tuesday. But we're still learning how to handle those situations where we do have an individual that chooses not to wear a mask, and it is frustrating for customers around him or her, and how we want to handle that.
I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What has led to this in regard to workplace safety issues? Have there been incidents? Well, let's start with that. Have there been incidents where there has been violence and aggression against grocery store employees because they've said, wear a mask?
Yeah, there have. And I'm going to be mindful not to share anecdotes about what they've been. But yes, I was on the phone even yesterday with some folks that represent our union. And we do know that they're ongoing. And that's part of what spurred this, was a desire to keep our employees safe, and our customers too, frankly. And that's what spurred this along, was just kind of a public ask to step up and take on this kind of responsibility.
Again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world, our special Friday broadcast of the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Northwest Grocers call on the public to wear masks. The campaign is called We Can't Do This Alone. Joining me is Holly Chisa. And Holly, has there, I don't know whether it's security or, has there been any training of the employees or education? What should folks expect from the employees when they're going into the grocery store, and this situation may be happening, or maybe someone forgot a mask, or what is it? What type of training has been done? What type of education has been done for those employees who now have to essentially police the entrance to the grocery store?
Well, the Training is adjusting as we go, because as I said, this has been since Tuesday and today's Friday, so we're only a couple of days in on the new proclamation. And the idea of mask requirements is only about a week and a half old from the governor's proclamation a week and a half ago. So we're adjusting as we go. We've done some verbal communication. We have provided written documentation. And part of the challenge is we think we've got a system solved, and then there is a shift by public health and the governor's office on how they want to handle the latest spikes or the latest clusters. And so we have to adjust accordingly. So whether it is providing PPE for our employees within the store sites, which has changed from one standard to another standard over the last couple of weeks, whether it is how we handle customers at the door, and whether we allow for a medical reason to come in, or whether it's just a hard nobody gets in kind of policy. We're training as rapidly as we can as the state makes a determination as how they want to approach it now. And that can change rapidly over a couple of days. Boy,
And it doesn't look like we're going to be in this. I mean, we're going to be out of this anytime soon. And it is unfolding, and the landscape changes. What are some of the challenges? And you may or may not be able to answer this question. You see, because people have to get food, and then again, that means that people have to work there, which means that somebody has to be on the front lines, and then they in turn have to go home to their families. And with this added additional potential risk, and you said that there is the potential of curbside pickup. What are some of the things that you're thinking about, that the Northwest Grocers Association is thinking about? Because it doesn't look. I know things are changing rapidly, and we're getting things, but there must be some consideration about what this is going to look like 3 months from now, in 2021, even next summer.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think we vision that far yet. I mean, we are trying to get things back into some kind of rhythm again that we are accustomed to. We are working to make sure that our employees have the correct PPE and the right sense of security when they are at the stores and working. And that includes those plexiglass shields at the check stands that folks see, and those types of steps. Providing sick leave when they need it, that kind of thing. Making sure that shelves are stocked again, getting, rice and beans and some basic staples back. I don't think we've really had a longer term vision conversation around, what does Thanksgiving shopping look like? What do the holidays look like? Because I think right now we're just trying to respond to what we're being asked to do today. And I think it would put a lot of stress on our employees if we, after going through all the mask ordering, requirements and getting those folks up to speed, turn around and say, okay, here's what we're going to do 3 months from now. I don't think 3 months ago we could have told you that this is where we were going to be today. So it's more of an immediate need of how are we serving our community and how are we serving our employees? And then we'll kind of get to that when we get there at this point.
Well, we know that the contagion is driving it, but we also know that the politics are pushing it. So what is the general feel? I know you can't speak for all employees, but for folks who are wondering, is there kind of a consensus again among those who are essential workers who are at the stores, that you can tell us what the general feeling is in having to be on the front lines during this? And then again, in this particular instance, in following the governor's mandate, now we also have to become the mask police at the stores. What's the general overall feeling, if you can, of those who work in grocery stores?
Sure. And I want to be really mindful because I represent the companies and we've got great labor unions that represent our employees that speak well on behalf of our workforce. I can tell you that it is our hope that people would be supportive of our employees, be kind to our employees. I know that folks are stressed when they go out into the stores and they kind of express that stress to our checkers and other folks. but people need to remember that our checkers and our folks are stressed out too, and that we need to be mindful about kind of the care that we extend to those workers that are out there trying to do their jobs. And, we're one of the few businesses that never closed through this entire experience. And so our employees have that need for positive interactions and supportive interactions with our staff who've been through a lot in the last couple of months.
Yeah, again, Holly, thank you for joining us here. The
Mhm.
Northwest Grocers call on the public to wear masks. It's a mandate from the governor. The campaign is "We Can't Do This Alone." Holly, I want to give you and that might have been it right there, but I want to give you an opportunity for final words here that you may want to share with our listening audience.
Sure. And first, I want to thank you for reaching out and picking up on the campaign and giving us an opportunity to talk to folks. We really do believe this is a partnership among us as the companies, our employees who are doing an incredible job out there, and our customers. When you walk into your local grocery store, whether you want to wear the mask or not, understanding that it is a necessary requirement for our employees to enforce that. They've been asked to do that by the governor. We have been asked to do that by the governor. We need to honor that request. And to be thoughtful in your approach and just working within your own community, your own friends, your own family to make sure they're masking up before they go into your local grocery store, your local supermarket, your local corner store to help reinforce that within those stores and to support those workers that are working there.
All right. Well, I know people have their own personal feelings about a lot of things, but
Mm-hmm.
don't beat up on the people who work at the grocery store. They're
Yep.
just doing what they have to do. It is their job. There is a mandate. Whether you do or don't want to wear a mask, it is now mandated that if you go into a grocery store, you have to. And if you go into one without a mask, it is incumbent upon whoever is charged with that duty to say something. Am I correct? Isn't there somebody has to say something? Somebody at
Yes.
the grocery store has to say something.
Yes. And if an individual is in the store and an inspector sees them without a mask and there is not a justifiable reason, for those folks who are concerned about their smaller businesses and their neighborhood retailers and their neighborhood stores, that store could get hit with a $10,000 fine. And for a lot of these small businesses that are coming back and reopening their doors and trying to get running again, the last thing they need is a $10,000 fine. So even if that is the message that gets to you to say, well, I wouldn't normally do it, but I want to help my small business by not letting them get hit with something like that, let that be the reason for putting that mask on.
All
That's
right.
what it takes.
Thank you for joining us and sharing this information. And as things continue to unfold, know that you have a resource here in Rainier Avenue Radio to share your information.
Appreciate that. And I'm happy to come back if folks have questions or want more information. Really appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you.
That's it. That's all the time I have. That's going to do it for the kid. Thanks for listening to another edition of our coronavirus special, the impacts of the coronavirus on Seattle, South Seattle, and surrounding areas. We will be back next Friday with more updates and more information. Until then, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.